Come
Hello,
on.
everyone, and welcome to another, or I should say, a new episode of Bound to Talk Basketball. I'm your host, Blake Walker. I got a new man next to me. This is Joey Kearns. Joey,
What's up?
welcome to Bound to Talk podcast series. Joey, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. You're an intern with Bound in a way. If
I am
everybody was wondering where Paul is still recovering from influenza. So well wishes to Paul. Hopefully he gets fully healed up. But we wanted to get something out. So Joey, tell a little bit about yourself.
I am, as you can see by the scene behind me, Gilbert student, Gilbert senior represent. I got the shirt on today too. But I'm a Gilbert senior and I'm with Bound. I'm an intern and I'm doing some stuff at our school, but I'm going to join Blake for the podcast this year. So I'm really excited. I played football and golf, but I love sports and I love basketball. So yeah.
Hopefully Paul and I didn't beat you up too bad during the football season. We were just having it.
Dude,
Uh,
I only made it through the first game. I
yeah,
got hurt in the first game.
yeah. Well, you never know.
Whatever.
But all right. So one thing about you and I, Joey, that we have in common is we both call games. You obviously call games for Gilbert, and I call games for Des Moines schools and whatnot. So our knowledge around our classes and specifically is good. 2A and 1A might be a little bit lower, but obviously it's still a couple weeks in. The girls have a week on the boys extra. So while there isn't a ton to go off for the boys, we're still going to talk about the boys. This first episode is really just going to kind of be get a feel of what we've been seeing so far. I guess one of the quick things I want to start with you, Joey, is let's talk about the bonus rule that has come into
The
play.
bonus rule.
That has come into play this year. So obviously the whole 5 fouls, you immediately shoot 2 shots rule, fouls reset after every quarter. In the games that I've done, it really hasn't played a factor a ton. Obviously, if you didn't know, this is the girl or the women's college basketball rules. They just took them and put them to high school. Have you noticed anything different? Like, have you noticed, does it feel like more free throws are happening? Like, what have you noticed anything with this new rule at all?
Well, I called the opener for our Gilbert team was Roland Story,
Yep.
and you might have saw that on social media. It was triple overtime for the boys. But that played a big part because right at the end of the game, Gilbert had like 5 fouls and Roland Story only had two. And then they went into overtime, but it carried over into overtime. So like it played a bigger part and like Gilbert had to make sure we weren't fouling right away because it's like 2 shots is way different than 1-on-1, especially you can't really send like a bad free throw shooter to the line on 2 shots as much as you could in a 1-on-1. So I actually think it has changed a little more, and I've called quite a few close games in the boys and the girls, and it's just like you just have to be aware of it more. Like in the first quarter, like people are getting into foul trouble, but then we're shooting free throws. So like our girls team has shot like 20 free throws a game. So I actually do think it makes a little bit of a difference, which is weird to think, but yeah.
I think you almost like I said on one of the broadcasts, you almost have to be better at free throw shooting. Like I feel like
Yeah.
more teams, like if you're bad, you're bad. Like you can really tell on the stat sheet. And I feel like that's something that a lot of coaches are really harping on, especially in this first, 2-3 weeks. Got to hit your free throws. I've also seen it. One of the biggest things that I noticed is that when say there's like 10 seconds left in a quarter and a team still has 3 fouls to give, they'll just foul and be like, all
Yeah.
right, take a tougher shot. It doesn't matter to us. So it's like, and it resets. So, I've seen different coaches try a couple things, but I don't know. I like it. I don't think it's really done a ton, honestly. The shot clock has still produced a lot of normal basketball. Like I called a 35-24 game the other night and the shot clock had nothing to do with it. So, I still think the shot clock makes teams have to work harder and you obviously can't hold the ball, but I don't know.
Yeah. Just different.
Yeah. So who knows? One of those things, couple of new changes that we have to get used to. But other than that, it's been a good start to the season. We'll just kind of go through the classes. We're going to take a look at the top 10 teams in our power index. And then if there's a team outside the power index that we have, then we'll talk about them. We'll start with class 5A in the girls then, Joey. Obviously, your roundhouse is 4A, 3A, kind of that Gilbert range. I obviously 5A. I grew up in Grinnell, so I was a 3A, 4A person. We'll start out girls 5A. So Johnston remains the number one team. There's really no doubt about that. Johnston has looked phenomenal to start. I think honestly the biggest surprise is Valley at number 2. Elise Yeager is leading the way for the Valley Tigers. They took down Ankeny Centennial the other night. Joey, I'm sure you've called games like this, and I'm sure you've seen games like this. Valley is one of those teams like Ballard has been for the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Slow it down, and you're not really going to take a lot of shots, and they're not going to be pretty shots if you take them. But it's a style of basketball that I feel like is starting to become more prevalent than the high flying run down the court and score.
Yeah, and just like something about that, I know when I've played, like you play a team like that, it's super frustrating. And especially if you're a team that wants to get out and score a lot, like Johnston just scores like a crap ton of points
Yep.
every single game. So, and they play this week, and that'll be awesome to see. Like, can like Valley, who's been surprising, they're 6-0, can they like slow them up and make them frustrated and take them out? We'll see. But like, it's frustrated it's frustrating, and like if you just know you can play the defense for that long, then it's like proven to work. Like you said, Ballard's just always good, but they always do it. So
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that it's working for Valley, and I think Valley's always going to be one of those teams that's good every year, but this year just feels a little different. I mean, they just have good playmakers and they're aggressive. Dowling Catholic is technically number 3 in the power index, despite being 3-3. They've played a tough schedule. They've gotten blown out by Valley, but yet they've just beat Waukee, who is at the number 4 spot. I've called this Waukee team a couple times. They're fun. They're young. They have a good group behind Coach Franklin. Emily Sorensen's really talented. Very, very good, fun basketball team. Davenport North is another team that I don't
yeah,
think a lot of people are talking about. They're 4-2, but their only 2 losses are to out-of-state opponents, and they just beat Pleasant Valley, who obviously won the state title last year. Davenport North could be the team to make some noise out on Eastern Iowa side.
yeah, for sure. They play in a tough conference though. Like everybody's in that, and there's good like 4A teams in that. I think they play with they're in the Mississippi Valley, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then they're playing with like Heelan's in that one too, right? If
Mississippi Valley. So Pleasant
oh
Valley
no
is
no no
obviously one of them. North Scott. There's a couple out there that are just
yeah,
very
but just
talented.
like or Assumption too.
Yep.
They're a good team always. So we'll see. Some
Yeah.
4A teams that are good that'll make some noise and screw some things up for some teams. So
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, in girls, you see it more than boys. There's a lot of cross class games,
yeah,
especially earlier in the season and in conference. I mean, you can have a conference where one team could be in 2A and one team could be in 4A. That's just kind of how it works. But
sure.
yeah, one of those cooler things. Ankeny Centennial is at 7. The Jags obviously only scored 24 points against Valley. I think it's still early, but they lost quite a few seniors last year. They don't have any seniors on their roster this year, which is kind of funny how that worked out. But they're a fun team. Ankeny at number 8. I really haven't had a chance to see a ton of Ankeny. Iowa City High is number 9, despite being 2-3, but their strength of schedule is pretty good. And then Cedar Falls is at 10 at 5-1. So pretty good teams at the top for Class 5A. Have you kept up 5A any, or you've just been in your 4A?
I've been to 4A, and I've known like we played Mason City the other night, and then Mason City, they're a good 4A team, but they had a close game with Waterloo West, but Waterloo West is always a top team. We're one of the ranked teams, I think, in the girls. No, maybe not the power rankings, but they are ranked by the state.
Yeah.
Um, and then they just got smacked by Cedar Falls, and that's a good Cedar Falls team. So they got some tough games. They play Xavier coming up this week, but they'll be good. And then yeah, City High 2-3, or that they're that high. They lost to Wahlert too, and Solon. Solon's a good team, but a lower class. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about Solon in a second. I just want to quickly go through the 5A rankings that of the actual top 10. So
yeah.
Johnston's 1, Valley is 2, Davenport North is 3, Dowling is 4, Centennial 5, Waukee is 6, Pleasant Valley 7, Ankeny 8, Cedar Falls 9th, and Sioux City East is at the number 10 position. So that's your 4A side for the girls basketball. We'll jump to 5 or 4A for the boys, where honestly it's kind of fun. Like there's really no true top dog, I think, right now, or at least it feels like it. First of all, let's just get the elephant out of the room here. Valley is not top 10 in our bound
No,
power index, but obviously you lose a game and it's beginning of the season. It's going to happen. Valley loses to Ankeny Centennial. It was an ugly game for Valley. I called that one for Centennial and Valley. Ankeny Centennial just made shots at the right time. Valley only hit 1 3-pointer the entire game. they just got frustrated. There were a couple foul calls that just didn't go their way, a couple bad breaks. All credit to Ankeny Centennial for how they played. Another thing you got to think, Joey, is Valley still doesn't have Xavion Robinson, who was a
Yeah.
huge factor in their win last year in the title. Obviously hurt his shoulder during football. He will come back, but I mean, they're still it's a big win for Ankeny Centennial here to start.
Yeah. Do you know what the timetable is for his return at all?
I think it's close. I mean,
Yeah.
because he would, from what I've heard, he was dunking in practice, he was warming up and stuff like that. I think it's just a matter of when a doctor says, hey,
Oh,
you're fully
yeah.
good to go. But you don't want to rush back. I mean, you don't want to hurry back and hurt your team's chances. But Valley has plenty of weapons. It's just last night or the other night was just a case of everything just went wrong.
Yeah, that happens. You just have an off night shooting and then you're lost. So,
Well, and you
um,
also, or go ahead, go ahead.
no. I was just I also heard did they add a player from North maybe?
They might have. There's so
They might
many
have.
transfers in 5A and 4A nowadays. Like I'd literally like the Cavill kid from Des Moines Lincoln that he went to Johnston, and I just
Yep.
completely forgot that he was at North or at Lincoln. Dalen Houston from Marshalltown is at Johnston. I knew that from football because I called a Marshalltown game, but no, there's just so many transfers I can barely keep up in the higher
Yeah.
classes, at least.
But yeah, we'll see. I think it was maybe I'm wrong. One of my friends told me that he used to play at North and they played him in summer league, but now he's at Valley. Might be McGregory, I'm not sure. But
Very possible.
no, they beat Urbandale by 10 and an Urbandale team that I don't
Urbandale's
know.
been hanging tough with a couple teams.
Eh,
Only beat Dowling by 3. That was like the
yeah.
big beginning of the season thing. But here's the thing with Valley. Valley won the state title last year, and they were all sophomores. Nobody expected that to happen. And
No.
now they're all juniors, and everyone's like, okay, do it again. And then senior year, okay, do it again. Like everybody in the moment last February or March when they won is like, all right, here comes the three-peat. But I
Mhm.
think that's the difference. And we'll talk about a team that I think is on the opposite side of this that is helping them. But Valley has so much pressure because they're all juniors, and you're like, do it again. If you did it once, do it again. So I think it's just how they end up going after it. The number one team, Joey, in our power index is of all teams, Linmar. And Linmar, deservingly so, beat Waukee not last Saturday, but the Saturday before. Just kind of a random 61-59 win on the road, mind you. Dallas Center Grimes is number 2. DCG obviously won the 3A title a couple years ago, and they've obviously fit in pretty well. We'll see how that holds. Iowa City West is number 3, but they have a McCaffrey kid, so I assume we'll see Iowa City West there at the top. Thomas Jefferson, Council Bluffs Thomas Jefferson is number 4. North Scott is 5. Waukee is 6th. Dubuque Senior is 7th. Cedar Rapids Kendi is 8th. Cedar Falls is 9th. And Council Bluffs Lincoln is in the number 10 position. Joey, you were talking about BCM. Cedar Rapids Kendi looks like they realistically could cruise the rest of the way.
Yeah, if we look at the Cedar Rapids Kennedy for the rest of the year, they do lines on BC Moore. Projected to win every single game the rest of the year by more than 19 points, with the closest of those games being City West with McCaffrey. So we'll see. But
What are their point totals this year in their games?
oh my gosh, they just well, they have like the number 1 offense. They beat Marion 81-32, and then Cedar Rapids Jefferson 89-25. So
Okay, so nothing changed from last year. They are still a
no.
very high scoring offense.
And BC Moore, they're the number 1 offense and defense. But
And if you remember last year going into the state tournament, a lot of people thought Kennedy was the team. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were the number 1 seed, if I can remember correctly. So, just worked out that way. And I think Kennedy, they returned a little bit from last year. I want to quickly talk about Waukee because I had a chance to talk with Mason Costello last week. And he made a really good point that I was almost curious about, that they are better this year than they were last year, in a way that last year you had Omaha Blue, you had all these top tier guys. You were expected to win ball games, and you were expected to win. And he's like, this year we can just play. He's like, we play like they played this year what we thought they were supposed to play like last year. They hit tons of threes. They're high flying. I mean, they can dunk the ball. They can do anything. I mean, Waukee's a fun team in the CIML, and I'm excited to see Waukee Valley in a couple of weeks. But I tell you what, it's weird to look at this top 10, Joey, and there is one CIML team in this entire top 10.
Yeah, there it'll get itself figured out.
Yes.
Just give it time. But like DCG, I know they're like new to 4A, so it's like weird for me to even call them 4A
Yeah.
because they're a
Yeah. They're
3A
growing.
powerhouse. But they had a big win the opening night. They beat ADM, who's one of the top teams in 3A. We'll talk about them by like 30. So I don't know, and maybe they can hang with some of those boys in the CML and maybe some of the Cedar Rapids schools. But shout out to my boy Jonathan Howard for DCG.
Yeah.
What a G! He's averaging 17, I think, but we'll see. And then one other thing that I did want to say is PV. And PV was the team Pleasant Valley that beat Kennedy, I think,
Yep.
last year, which was an undefeated Kennedy team. They hadn't even been touched at all, and then they beat them first round. I was like, I saw it as so like what, but a PV team that returned like 3 juniors, I think, and they've already lost it. They've already dropped a game. So, but they'll get things figured out too. And I think we wouldn't be surprised to see them at the top as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So that's a little bit of a look at your 5A and 4A. We'll go to girls 4A now, since we're on the classes are obviously a little misbalanced. So girls 4A, it's another team at the top. Really no surprise. Dallas Center Grimes is the top team in class 4A. Yes, they lost a little bit, but they return also just enough. Vanessa Bickford, one of the best players in the state in that class. Dallas Center Grimes, Coach Jones just runs a phenomenal program over there the last couple of years. They seem untouchable, and they seem like they could easily repeat, very possible. I know last year was just such a big jump through. The coolest story of the season, Joey, is the Norwalk Warriors. Joe Segrist used to be the head coach at Valley and won a couple state titles with the Valley girls. He then took a year off to go watch his son play at Norwalk, and then he had like assistant coached for the Norwalk boys team. And then they were like, hey, you want to come coach this girls team? Who Norwalk girls had been fine. They hadn't been like top tier, but they'd been pretty good. And now they started the season unranked. And in 1 week, they jumped to number 3 in the rankings. I have never
yeah,
seen a team go from unranked to number 3 in the girls' rankings. They're number 2 in our rankings. Bailey Birmingham, if you've never heard of the name, is absolutely balling. I think she's averaging like 27 points a game. Norwalk and DCG, oh, by the way, are in the same conference. So the Little Hawkeyes represented well here, especially here at the top.
yeah. It'll be crazy to see Little Hawkeye. It's been like a Little Hawkeye versus Raccoon River thing to start the
Yeah.
year, and I'm a Raccoon River guy. But like Norwalk and DCG, like both played Ballard, and well, I think DCG played North Polk and DCG or in Ballard, and they
Yeah.
beat both of them in the state championship last year in the tournament, and then they beat them again. So that's kind of a little salt on the wound, but. And then Norwalk took out Ballard as well. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. I just know that like these Raccoon River teams are all the ones that I get to watch and they're good. And then know that those guys are better is crazy.
Norwalk runs fast. I mean, they just play really fast basketball. Bishop Heelan is number 3. Joey, we can never count out Bishop Heelan. It seems like every single year they get to the state tournament, every single year they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Clear Creek Amanda is at number 4. I think, obviously, have a lot of those girls were probably on the state volleyball team, so you know you're going to get a lot of athletic girls. So Clear Creek Amanda at number 4, good for the Clippers. North Polk, who you have seen, is at number 5. Central DeWitt is at 6. Granted, their strength of schedule is one of the worst. Ballard is at 7. They're 4-2, but Ballard's going to play tough opponents no matter what. Lamar's is at 8. Pella is at 9, despite one of their losses was to North Polk by almost 30. So there's quite a discrepancy there.
Yeah.
And then Waverly Shell Rock is at 10. So I mean, it's a pretty solid top 10 of teams all across the board.
Yeah, for sure. And Heelan, like you said, they're always good, but it's hard to tell because they kind of like roll a lot of teams, and
Yeah,
then
there's
they
not a
don't.
lot of competition up in that side of Iowa.
No, and then they just don't. It's hard because they don't get to Central Iowa and they don't
No.
get to some of those teams, and then you don't know until you get there, and then state tournament, and then oh, they dropped one. But we'll see. Clear Creek, big game. I think they play tomorrow. I think they play Solon, and like we said, we're going to talk about them.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they do.
that'll be a big game. And then Ballard and North Polk out of the Raccoon River. They'll be fun to watch. I watched North Polk. It was ridiculous. I've watched a lot of girls basketball. My sister played. I've never seen a team like them play in 4A. So, and to think that DCG beat them is like, geez.
When I was in high school, it was always North Polk and Center Point Urbana were like the top 2 teams that would always make it every single year. And North Polk had a really good bunch of girls. They had the one girl that transferred to Centennial. She was really good. So yeah, it's the only team in the top 10 of the Bound Power Index that's in the top 10 in the girls' power rankings, but not in ours, is Mason City. Mason City is number 6 in the girls' rankings. They are not in the top 10 in our rankings. So a little bit of a difference there. So
we played them on Saturday. They shoot a lot of 3-pointers.
DCG, Clear Creek, Amana, Norwalk, North Polk, Waverly, Shell Rock, Mason City, Bishop Heelan, Ballard, Lamars, and Central DeWitt are the top 10 for the girls' side. We'll go to boys 3A, where, let me pull it up here. Carroll is the number 1 team. Bishop Heelan is number 2. Must be nice to have 2 teams at the top, just like Dallas Center Grimes. Nevada is at 3. Storm Lake is 4. Decorah is 5. ADM is 6. Maquoketa is 7th. Williamsburg is 8th. MOC Floyd Valley is 9th. And Solon is 10th. So you got a good combination of a couple of Womack schools, one Raccoon River school. I mean, kind of everybody everywhere. Carroll obviously has played the best record or the best opponents out of anyone. They are 14th ranked strength of schedule in the entire state. But any surprises on here or anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I was. We'll see how kind of some of these pan out. Nevada's a good team. They won't play the best competition, but they do play a couple of good teams. So we'll see if they drop. But I just know some of these teams, like Lewis Central, one loss was to that Thomas Jefferson team, and they're at 11. Like that's a good team. Xavier, a one loss. I'm pretty sure that was to a good opponent too. That's a good team. Clear Lake. So some of these teams that are down there a little further, they'll jump as games keep getting in. But yeah, Carroll, they've looked more surprising than we thought. They lost a lot of guys from last year. One on a buzzer beater, I think, game 1 against Kemper, and
Yeah.
Kemper's a good team as well, which was a nuts shot. And then won a couple other big games. They beat Storm Lake, who's number 4 there in the Bound Power Index. So we'll see how some of those guys pan out.
The biggest thing I'm looking at here for Nevada, they have 3 guys averaging over 14 points per game. So that'll really help you out.
Yeah, that helps.
The Heart of Iowa is, like you said, not the strongest conference, but, it's just kind of who do they play Gilbert this year? Because usually Nevada, yeah, I was going to say.
So they'll play Rolling Story twice because Rolling Story's in their conference, and then Gilbert, yeah. So that'll be a good game. They were up in the Bound Power Index last year too, and then they played Gilbert, who we only won 5 games last year, and we beat them last year. So we'll see.
Yeah. So fast start to the year for Class 3A. We'll go to Girls 3A. Solon is the number 1 team, led by Callie Levin. It's either Callie Levin or Callie Levin. She's headed to the Iowa Hawkeyes next year. Solon looks phenomenal. Mount Vernon is very good. Chloe Meester, who was a star on the volleyball side, is very good for Mount Vernon. Harlan has started off good. They're at the number 3 spot. Sheridan is 4. Roland Story is 5. You've seen Roland Story, the girls team.
Mm-hmm.
Cherokee is 6. Des Moines Christian is 7th. Forest City is 8th. Benton is 9th. And Esterville Lincoln Central comes in at the number 10 spot. ELC obviously has Stokes, one of the top players in the state, got upset in the first round by Benton Shellsburg last year. Benton lost Jenna Twett, or I think Twet, whatever his name was. She is phenomenal. She's playing up at Kirkwood now, I believe. Very good 3A class that has been strong. Last year, you got to think, last year was really out of nowhere. Like Sioux Center came out of nowhere and beat Benton in the title game. And it was like, what? This is a fun class. And I like that the top 2 teams are from the WAMAC because we'll really get to see what both teams are made out of here.
Yeah, and a lot of returning state teams like Solon, Esterville. It'll be weird to see, or not weird. It'll be cool to see if Esterville can get back to the state tournament and kind of like avenge. Like they were undefeated last year and then they lost in the first round. So, but yeah, Solon and Roland Story, we called that game. They have a foreign exchange student from Italy, and she's been a pretty big addition to their team. So we'll see.
Is she tall or is she just?
No, she's a guard, but she I was told there's no high school basketball in Italy, so she's only played EYBL stuff for Italy.
God. Well, I'd say it. That stuff's probably pretty tough.
I mean, that's pretty tough. So we'll see. I think they're gonna be sneaky, and they got a couple other really good players, a couple good bigs for them too. So yeah.
Interesting. Solon is number 1 in the power rank or in the rankings for the girls union. Mount Vernon is 2. Des Moines Christian is 3. ELC is 4, so pretty big difference there. Benton is 5. Wahlert Catholic, who isn't in our top 10, but they're just outside of it, is at 6. Harlan 7th, Forest City 8th, Monticello is 9th, and Clear Lake is 10th. So Class 3A is shaping up. If you're curious about strength of schedule, Des Moines Christian has the best out of everyone in the top 10. Solon has the second best. And like you said, we'll get to see Solon and Clear Creek Amana here soon. Abby posted the top 10 games of girls this week. We will go over that once we're finished. I don't have the boys' side, unfortunately. Like, the boys still aren't ranked, so we really can't tell. But I promise in future weeks we will have it going. So we've done girls 3A. We've done boys 3A. Let's go to boys 2A, if I can find it here. At the top is Underwood at 4-0. West Burlington is 2. Hudson is 3. Hudson seems like a pretty fun team. I mean, they've kind of been everywhere recently. Monticello is 4. West Lyon is 5. Kemper is 6. The only loss coming to Carroll. South Hamilton is 7th. Western Christian is 8th. Unity Christian is 9th. Roland Story is 10th. So two things that really jump off the page. Roland Story has one of the better players in the state. Obviously, you've witnessed that firsthand. Western Christian is in 2A now, obviously, and we know how good Western Christian is. They've only lost like 9 games in the last 6 years, something like that. It's a fun 2A, and honestly, Kemper, 25th hardest strength of schedule. That's the best in Class 2A. Their only loss coming to Carroll.
Yeah, and Kemper's a good team to watch. They're going to get beat up on some. They play with some of those Western Iowa teams, though, like the Lewis Centrals and all the Council Bluffs teams. So we'll see how they fare. Underwood, they got a big game this week. They play St. Albert, a 1A team, but they're always really good. So I think they play tomorrow. I'm going to have to watch that. And then Hudson, they had a big win. They might have taken out Grundy. Was it Grundy? Yeah. But yeah, they're a fun team to watch. I saw that they beat Appleton Parkersburg, a team that's always good. They beat them by 14. So we'll see how they fare. The couple other of these teams, a couple Heart of Iowa teams, which surprised me, and then Van Meter, who was just out, and Esterville. Esterville's got they got what's the guy?
The Owen Larson.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's good. So we'll see.
Phenomenal. He's technically, I think he's the number 1 ranked recruit in the state.
Yeah, and I think he might even be playing football, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yes, that'll be some fun 2A games.
I'm looking for Underwood. Mason Boothby, wide receiver for him, is averaging 16 points a game. Luke Seidler averaging 12.5 per game. So they got a couple scores. Josh Ravlin scoring a couple. They're a pretty senior-heavy team, but Underwood looks like they could be putting it all together here early. Again, we're only like 3 weeks into the boys basketball season, so a lot can change, but we just wanted to go over it here. Let's go girls 2A. North Mahaska is the number 1 team in our power index to start. North Mahaska is number 7 in the girls ranking, so there is a good discrepancy there. Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont is number 2. Sioux Central at 3. Sioux Central beat New Alfonda, so that really helped them out. Westwood is 4. Jessup is 5. Grundy Center is 6. Dyke New Hartford lost. I don't know to who, but Dyke New Hartford is still number 1 in the girls' rankings, but they're 7th in ours. Panorama 8th. Applington, Parkersburg is 9th, and Nottoway Valley is 10th.
Yeah. Dyke's only loss is to Solon, so that's pretty good loss. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of good teams up there.
Oh, that was at the Kirkwood thing or whatever. Yeah.
It was did they play it there?
Yeah. That was it was a close game too, I'm pretty sure. So like New Hartford's gonna be fine. It's just good for Solon. That's a heck of a win.
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of good teams here. A Regina team that's always good. Maybe some of these teams I look at and in the classes with more teams, the BC Moore varies a little bit more than the Bound Power Index does. They have Sioux Central and Dyke up there at number 1 and number 2, but yeah, and they have who's Sloan Westwood? Is that a combined team with somebody else?
I mean, it's Westwood. I don't know the team they combine with, but
yeah, I gotcha. But yeah, some good teams.
Yeah, Grundy Center has the hardest schedule in this, or the hardest strength of schedule so far, 19th. That's pretty high for a lower or a lower class team. So they come in at 4-1. Good for them to start. So also it's crazy that a lot of these teams, so like North Mahaska, 5-0, 4 of their games have been against conference opponents. Like quickly jumping on the conference train. I know that's not the hardest conference in the world, but good for North Mahaska. I mean, they got to the state tournament 2 years ago. and they unfortunately got absolutely beat up. I think it was one of the worst first round losses we've ever seen at the state tournament, but they're still a very fun team. So I don't know. They'll be fun to watch. Good for them. Let's go boys 2A here, or we just did boys 2A.
We
So we're
did
going
to
to go
it.
boys 1A, where
Yep.
South O'Brien is the number one team. If you can, click on South O'Brien and tell me who they've played, because they apparently have the 11th hardest schedule, and they're 4-0. Can you see that for me and see who they've played?
They beat Remsen. That's a good team.
Yep.
And then Akron, Westfield, Hinton, and Westwood. So
I mean,
I don't know.
I guess
Sure.
that's pretty good. I mean, Remsen is number 9 in
Yep.
the Bound Power Index, so I guess that'll help you out. Linville Sully is 2. I know Linville's pretty good. I think they beat Montezuma by 2, so that's a good win for them. Madrid is number 3. I think in the lower classes, especially, if you're good in football and a lot of the football kids play basketball, they're usually pretty good in that sport as well. Like everybody kind of grows together. North Union is 4. Winfield Mount Union is 5. Key is 6. Belle Plaine 7th with a 302 schedule rank. Marquette Catholic is 8th. Remsen is 9th. Montezuma is 10th. Like you said, Joey, there's so many still very good teams that are just not in the top 10 because they either haven't played anybody or it's just,
Like Northland is 16th. That's crazy.
Yeah. Have they lost a game yet?
No, they're 5-0.
Yeah.
And Lake Mills, all these teams, that'll get itself figured out. Mount Union, I think that good football player is one of their best basketball players too, as well. So big guy, one of the, but yeah. Madrid, they made the state tournament last year. They'll be good again, and yeah.
Yeah, 1A's wide open. Like you said, Grandview Christian before we started, Grandview Christian is not near the top. I can't remember. Was Grandview Christian's thing granted this year that they're 2A, or are they 1A this year? I can't remember if that's a next year thing or
they are. I think they're 1A this year, and then they'll
next year they go to 2A.
I think so, but
yeah, something like that.
Don't quote me.
Yeah, get up there eventually.
Yeah.
Noah Fonda. So I messed up. Noah Fonda beat Sioux Central on the girls' side, but still, that's a good loss, if you will. Noah Fonda on the girls' 1A side is the number one team. No surprise, Noah Fonda is always at the top. Their team that they usually compete against, Bishop Garrigan, they beat the other night. Bishop Garrigan obviously does not have Audi Crooks anymore. They will still have a good team, but a little shorthanded this year. Coon Rapids Bayard is number 2. Calamus Wheatland is 3. Holy Trinity is 4. St. Albert, like you talked about, is 5. Their only loss is to Harlan. Cam is 6. Northland Girls are up to 7th. Linville Sully is 8th. George Little Rock is 9th. And Remsen is 10th at 5-0. 1A girls especially, there's a lot of undefeated teams, and they're not all in the top 10.
Yeah, a Newell Fonda team that's like they're just ridiculously good every year. It's crazy. But I think they have Esterville coming up tomorrow, and that'll be a good game to see. It's good to like have the cross class games, and that'll make the Bound Power Index even better. So that's a good team. There's a couple other teams that that usually aren't as good, but like a Remsen is sitting at 10. They're 5-0. They're always good, and then Northland team that's 5-1. That'll
there's quite a bit discrepancy here for the girls' side. These are how the top 10 look on the girls' side. So you got North Lynn at 1, and they're number 7. Newell Fonda 2, Martinsdale St. Mary's 3, 4th is Remsen, 5th is Riceville, 6th is St. Albert, 7th is Bishop Garrigan, 8th is Calamus Wheatland, 9 is Coon Rapids Bayard, and 10 is Earlham. So quite a big difference between the Bound Power Index and the rankings. The biggest thing about the Bound Power Index that not a lot of people understand is that give it a couple weeks.
Like, if it works itself
out, it works itself out eventually. And by, mid-January, late January, it will be good. And that's a good thing that people can use and bank on. But overall, I mean, just give it some time, man. Give it some time.
Yeah. Patience.
So, yeah. Overall, I mean, just pretty solid all throughout. But yeah, anything else I'm trying to look at? We'll obviously talk about our games for the girls' side that we wanted to go through. I just wanted to quickly go through our feed this past week and highlight a couple things. Shout out Drew Wagner of Waterloo Christian, had a 44-point game with 12 rebounds as well. He had a heck of a game. Shout out that. What else did we post about? We posted about some of the top 2 scorers in the state. We just highlighted Bondurant, Cole Miller, and Tanner Berggren. And there were a couple others on here. West Central Valley upsets Panorama on a last-second buzzer beater. First win over them in 6 years, something like
Yeah, I
that.
saw that.
So yeah, just make sure to always check in on our social media feed. You can always, get more content and whatnot. And yeah, that's all. That's all I'm going to say about our Instagram feed. We're currently at 42.7K, so keep an eye on it. All right, we're going to have some fun, and we are going to look at our top 10 or our top girls games this week that just so happen to be 10 of them. And you and I, Joey, are going to give our predictions for them.
All
We
right.
might not know a lot about them, but we're going to take our best
We're
guess.
going to do them. Let's go.
I do have the rankings here, so I can at least go through some of it, and we'll see what happens. We'll start out with the power one. Solon takes on Clear Creek Amana. 4A, number 1 Solon takes on 3A, number 2 Clear Creek Amana. This is going to be a fun game. Obviously, two very, very talented basketball teams. I'm going to roll with Solon just because the firepower that they've had early is really good, and Cal 11 is very good at basketball.
Yeah, like a 6-0 team, and they've taken out some good teams. Like they beat that Dyke team, so only by one, but like I like a win like that. And they played a couple of Big Eight. They beat a City High team, and then they beat a Williamsburg team that's usually good. So I'm gonna roll with Solon as well.
Number 6, Dowling Catholic takes on number 11, Southeast Polk. Southeast Polk still young. Alyssa Bartlett leads the way for the Rams. Ava Zedeker, if you've never heard of the name, is very good for Dowling Catholic. I will have to roll with the Rams. I think Southeast Polk's a good team. I think they're still learning under their new head coach, but I got to roll with Dowling Catholic.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about either of those teams, but Dowling, like they kind of got punched in the mouth early. Like they lost bad to Valley, and I don't know, maybe that'll make them spark some anger, and they're gonna take out Southeast Polk.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, Martinsdale St. Mary's takes on number 5, Nottoway Valley. I've enjoyed this Nottoway Valley team. Made the state a couple years ago. I think it was just kind of one of those like really cool moments. I think it was the first time they'd made it. I'm going to roll with Nottoway Valley in this one. I think also, if you want, while I'm going through these, you can just go on the scores tab and click on the game previews for these games.
I could go on the GIP. That's a great idea.
I guess if you want, so Martinsdale St. Mary's and Nottoway Valley, if you want to find that one, that is a 3 versus 5 matchup.
Yeah, those are two good teams. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Martinsdale just because the history there. They're just always so good at sports, especially in girls basketball. So I'm gonna go with Martinsdale. Maybe they'll get some things figured out. They're 4-2, but like we said, some losses to some good teams. So we'll see.
Yeah. Davenport North, number 4, takes on Muscatine. Muscatine's not too bad. They flirted with the top 15, but Davenport North's a wagon right now. I don't think you can go against Davenport North.
Yeah, I kind of like North to try to upset something for the 5A state title anyways. So yeah. I might pick that, maybe roll with them, see if they can knock out some of those Central Iowa teams.
Newell Fonda, number 2, takes on number 6, Esterville Lincoln Central. Can the midgets get back going here? I mean, obviously the early loss to Cherokee, I think it was, or they lost early. That was a big loss for them, just kind of to wake them up. Newell Fonda obviously is very talented. This is a 2-class separation. So you got a 3A school taking on a 1A school. Does the 1A school come out on top here, Joey?
I got the midgets. I have a midgets shirt. I gotta roll with the midgets. My dad's got friends up there. I gotta go with the midgets.
Man, I don't know. This is a really tough one. I believe in Hallie Stokes. I think she's a phenomenal basketball player. I'm gonna roll with Newell Fonda. I think the history's there. I'll give the advantage to them. Number 11, Algona takes on Humboldt. I'm gonna roll with the Dogs. I think you got a ranking for a reason. Give me that one.
Yeah,
pretty nice.
Yeah, I like a Humboldt team though. And but we'll see. They lost early to Gilbert, but they've picked it up a little bit with some big wins. So I'm gonna go with Humboldt.
All right. Number 1, Dyke New Hartford takes on number 8, Applington Parkersburg. I guarantee that Solon loss will be the only loss of the year for Dyke New Hartford, and I bet they go on and win the whole state tournament and only have 1.1 loss. I like the Wolverines.
Yeah, you got to go with them.
That whole volleyball team is literally their basketball team. So
they got it out, dude. They didn't win the volleyball title. They lost. They got it out. They got to win this one.
North Lynn, number 1, takes on number 13, East Buchanan. I like North Lynn. Very cool to see the girls team. The boys team has been good for years, but it's good to see the girls team back on top.
Yeah, trying not to live in the shadow too much, but yeah, it's hard not to pick them.
Yeah.
They're going to be tough all year. So I got Northland as well.
Benton is number 5. Williamsburg takes on them. Williamsburg is 14th ranked. I'm pretty sure Williamsburg had only won like a couple games in the last several years combined, and this year they've just come out of the woodwork. I think winning breeds winning at schools. Williamsburg wins the football title, and everyone's like, you know what? I think we can do that too. So Benton's pretty good. I will give Benton that. Give me Williamsburg in an upset. Why not?
Wow, might as well, right?
Yeah.
But I'll take Benton. I'll take the favorites. But they've got a couple of good wins early this year, and they play tonight too. So we'll see. Maybe they took care of
I think
Mount
they're
Pleasant
tonight, and then they're tomorrow, and then they're Thursday. So I mean, it's quite a bit this week.
Yeah, they have a big game against Marion tomorrow.
Yeah. Marion, tough team as well.
Yeah.
Final one, number 1 Johnston takes on number 2 Valley. We get a nice 1 versus 2 matchup in the same class. Valley is very low scoring. Johnston is very high scoring. This one's being played at Valley. Oh, I'm gonna roll with Valley. I think in this, if it was later in the season when the first time these two teams met, I might lean a little bit toward Valley, but I gotta run toward Johnston. I mean, Johnston's just been. The fact that Johnston lost the title last year probably didn't make him very happy. So I feel like they're just kind of on a whole tour here to get going.
Yeah, I got Johnston too. I looked it up. They already have 3 D1 commits anyways, and then they're gonna get some more. And Lewis she'll get it figured out. She's struggled a little bit shooting, but she's probably the best player in the state. Maybe
I will say, post player wise, it could be interesting with Elise Yeager down low. Johnston doesn't have a ton of size down low. Mm-hmm. They have size, but it's not like what it's been in the past when they've had Jada Jimfy and all these other talented athletes. So I don't know. You're going to have to guard Johnston from beyond the 3-point line because Allie Tanky can knock anything down, and it's going to be a fun game. So that's your top games to watch this week for girls basketball. You can always check those out on the Instagram and Twitter pages. Joey, I think that is going to do it for the first episode of Bound to Talk Basketball. We will have much more next week. We're going to come with a few more notes, maybe talk about some individual performances, but we're going to try to do it next Sunday night if possible. So we're going to try to get back on schedule. This will be released tomorrow, Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday night. So if anything happens while we're recording the podcast, do not yell at us. It's not like we're watching right now. But Joey, appreciate you joining me. Joey will be back for every episode this year. We're going to get Paul to join in as well so we can have some roundtable discussions. And yeah, anything else, Joey? What are you calling this week? Let's go with that.
Oh, we're off tomorrow. Both boys and girls off tomorrow. And then we got winter set on Friday.
Winter set boys are not bad.
There's a lot of the Raccoon is the CIML of 3A in boys. So we'll see.
Call the last 2 summers I've called winter set softball. So I have enjoyed a lot of really good softball the last 2 years. I don't know why they haven't given me a team ring yet. I feel like I'm part of the team, but
yeah, they should.
State champions, but I love the Raccoon River. I grew up in the I grew up in the LHC, the little Hawkeye, and I was always like, it's the top conference. I still think it is, but always in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's always Raccoon River's right there, the CIML's right there, and the Mississippi Valley's right there. So
yeah, for
very
sure.
fun. I have wrestling tomorrow night, girls wrestling, Ankeny/Ankeny Centennial, since they combine, we'll take on Southeast Polk, and then on Thursday, I'm at Valley for Johnston and Valley. So
yeah, that'll be sweet.
Gonna be a fun week of basketball. Joey, thanks for joining me. We are going to see everyone next Sunday or Monday, and we hope everyone has a good week of basketball. Thank you for listening to Bound to Talk Basketball. We'll see you next week.
See ya.